Hey everyone, I'm back, and this time I bring a pretty special video. Our topic today is a bunch of round hook screws in a brand new CD that has never been used. Sounds weird, but trust me, when we combine these two things that seem like throwaways, we will create something really interesting. Does that make you feel curious? The first thing I want to do is mark the back side of the CD. I'm using a ruler and a pen. Here's a tip. It's better to use a permanent marker because the lines are bold, easy to see, and won't smudge when we apply hot glue later. The first thing I want to do is mark on the back of the CD. Here I use a ruler and a pen. A small tip, you should use a marker because the lines are clear, easy to see, and when applying glue later, the ink won't smudge. This simple step is the opening for the next parts. To fix the hook screws, I place the CD on top of a wooden board, with the marked side facing up. This wooden board helps protect the table underneath, and also keeps the CD steady while I'm working. Then I slowly apply hot glue along the marked lines. Notice that I don't rush here, because the glue needs to spread evenly. Otherwise, you'll end up with clumps that look messy. I'll start with just 4 lines to demonstrate. Here, I'll show one example in detail. I place the hook screw horizontally, making sure the loop head and a small part of the stem stick out. The exposed part will be used later to hang or connect things. Now, repeat the same process for the other screws, one by one. Here's a tip. Try to line all the hook screws carefully, almost like spokes on a wheel. If one of them is crooked, the whole structure will look tilted. And trust me, once the glue hardens, it's nearly impossible to fix without reheating and starting over. Another small trick, don't overload the glue. A thin, even line is actually stronger because too much glue takes longer to dry and can even weaken the joint. And that's it for this step. All the hook screws are now firmly in place, looking neat and evenly spaced. Now comes an important detail, the spark plug. This is essential. I insert the threaded part right into the hole at the center of the CD. It feels a little loose, so I add some hot glue to secure it. Once the glue sets, it feels solid, and I'm ready for the next step. This copper wire was a bargain I found at a flea market. I estimate a piece slightly longer than the CD circumference. For example, the circumference is about 37 centimeters, which is around 14.5 inches. So I cut a piece about 40 centimeters, around 16 inches. In the 19th century, when the electricity industry was still in its infancy, Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla were dueling to decide whether direct current DC or alternating current AC would dominate the world. Copper wire became the main weapon in this battle. Edison used copper wire to carry DC power from power plants to individual homes in New York, while Tesla wrapped copper wire around coils to generate AC power, allowing electricity to be transmitted over long distances with less loss. It is said that thanks to copper's excellent conductivity, Tesla was able to light up the entire city of Chicago at the 1893 World's Fair. Another interesting detail, at that time, copper wire was rare and expensive. So many electrical projects competed for every meter of wire. Once in New York, a group of thieves took advantage of the public's ignorance to steal copper wire from electrical constructions, forcing Edison to strengthen security. Thus, a material that seemed ordinary like copper wire actually helped decide the battle between two electrical philosophies and shaped the modern electrical industry. To prepare the connections, I first take 2 short pieces of insulated wire. These aren't ordinary wires. They are single core wires, with many fine copper strands twisted inside, offering both flexibility and efficient conductivity. I lay them carefully on my workspace, making sure the ends don't tangle or fray. For the first wire, I use a wire stripper to remove a section of insulation, exposing the shiny copper strands inside. I check that none of the strands are broken, because a clean, intact copper end ensures a strong electrical connection. Next, I attach the stripped end of the leftover copper wire on the CD we prepared earlier. I twist the strands gently together so they interlock, forming a stable connection. To keep it safe and prevent short circuits, I wrap a few layers of tape around the joint. I take my time. Rushing could leave copper exposed, causing a weak or unsafe connection. Then I move on to the second wire. I strip one end in the same careful manner and connect it to the ground terminal of the spark plug. This connection is equally important because it completes the circuit, allowing current to flow safely. Once connected, I wrap it with tape as well, ensuring the insulation is secure. Finally, to prevent the wires from dangling or moving while I work on the rest of the project, I secure them with a small dab of hot glue. I apply it carefully, avoiding touching the wires while the glue is hot. This step keeps everything neat and stable, reducing the risk of disconnections or short circuits later. By handling each wire carefully, checking every connection, and securing them properly, the setup becomes much more reliable and ready for the next stage of the DIY project. With the disc finished, I set aside and leaned back in my old chair, gazing at the yard where sunlight filtered through the old tree branches. In that moment, memories came flooding back. The antenna base was ready, a flat, round wooden piece of bottom and 2 PVC pipes, one straight, one angled. Looking at these simple materials, I suddenly remembered the old wartime days, when every bit of metal was precious. People had to turn in copper pots, pans, and even coins to government stores to support weapon and communication equipment production. Back then, every household item could become a strategic resource, and everyone had to be creative, making the most of whatever they had. As a child, my grandmother using old water pipes to channel water to the garden. Leftover wooden planks from shipping crates became bookshelves, and outdated or broken CDs were cut up for toys or decorations. Now, looking at the PVC pipes and wooden base in front of me, it felt like a bridge connecting past and present. Ordinary objects around us, from small pieces of wood, plastic pipes, to old CDs, suddenly felt meaningful, becoming part of a little invention, bringing joy, creativity, and a sense of accomplishment that age helps one truly appreciate. I assembled each piece slowly, thinking as I worked. When the straight PVC pipe was attached to the center of the wood, and the angled one placed for balance, I imagined enormous antennas engineers built during the war for long-distance radio communication. I chuckled softly, Thinking that even small, ordinary objects around us today could become a mini version of those grand constructions. If you've been following along, where are you at? I'm about to move on to the step of connecting the wires with the TV antenna cable. And then I suddenly thought, how strange it is that a circle seemingly closed like a CD can become a doorway to memory. It is like the extension of those copper wires long ago, pulling us from the time of tube radios, through the blurry black and white era of TV, to the bright modern days of today. One piece of disc, one piece of wire, and an entire century of technological history, all shrunken right here in my hand at this moment. I imagine the scene of the old balcony, where my grandfather used to climb up the tiled roof, adjusting again and again the homemade antenna. Every time a channel came in clear, the whole neighborhood rushed in to watch together. Kids sitting crowded on the floor, adults squeezing around a heavy TV. The curved screen trembling every time someone touched it. Sometimes, just one strong gust of wind would blur the picture, and he would have to grab his cane, climb back up to adjust, while the whole family below shouted, "Tilt left, tilt right." That scene, now recalled, feels funny, but it was a whole part of my childhood. Now, when I wrap a piece of copper wire around this shiny CD, I feel like I am continuing an old tradition, the tradition of DIY, making use of whatever is at hand, and turning them into a bridge for the outside world to flow into the small home. A bit of wire, one connector, and then the image appears again on the screen, like magic. And when I sit watching the result, I realize this antenna not only helps capture TV signals, but also captures back the memories of a time long gone. Each wire end is connected, and I carefully wrap tape around the joints, imagining them as veins carrying energy from the CD outward, bringing the signal to TV. Every layer of tape is done meticulously, both for safety and to make the connection look neat and secure. I remember the old days when the whole neighborhood would climb onto rooftops to adjust antennas, discuss favorite programs, and compete for few available channels. That feeling of excitement and joy is now recreated here in my modern DIY version, right on my work table. Then I attach the other end of the TV cable to an F connector, one straight, one 90-degree angle. I check each connection carefully, making sure nothing is loose or misaligned. I think to myself, if this isn't tight, the signal will fail. Seeing everything click perfectly together feels like completing a Lego set, but even more satisfying because this is something I made myself from ordinary objects that seemed useless. And then the moment arrives. The homemade antenna, a combination of an old CD, copper wires, PVC pipes, and TV cable, is complete. I step back and admire it standing firmly on the table, the light reflecting off the CD in tiny, sparkling rays. I remind myself that sometimes the simplest object around us, a small piece of wood, a copper wire, a plastic pipe, can create something magical. They can carry signals, connect us to the world, or simply bring the joy of creativity. In that quiet moment, I remember childhood days when the family gathered around the radio, listening to news from faraway places, or watching the earliest TV shows. Those memories make me realize that DIY is not only about making or technical skill. It's a way to preserve memories, to connect past and present. Now, with this small homemade antenna, a piece of the past comes alive, mingling with present joy. The joy of creation, of turning seemingly useless objects into something useful, and the pride of making something with my own hands. Right now, my TV screen shows no signal. I'm going around to the back and plugging in the antenna. And there it is, a clear picture on the screen. The reason this works is because the design focuses the signals into the spark plug at the center, then transfers them to the copper wire into the TV cable. It may not be as polished as a store-bought antenna, but the performance is surprisingly good. And that is what really matters. It is not always necessary to spend a pile of money to get what you want. A few discarded items, a bit of skill, and you have created something that can bring the whole world into your small room. For many people living in remote areas where television signal or internet is still weak, a homemade antenna like this can be the difference between a blank screen and an evening full of information, news, or simply a movie that softens the loneliness. I think of the elderly, those who live alone in isolated houses, where the TV is not just an entertainment device, but the only companion for them. Receiving the broadcast is not only about whether the image is clear or blurry, but about the thread that connects them to society, to the outside world. Every news program, every voice, every face on the screen brings back the feeling of being attached, of not being abandoned. And you see, it is your very own hands that can create that. One copper wire loop, one old CD, or even a burned out spark plug, things that many people treat as trash, can turn into a bridge that brings you closer to joy. You may not have a sharp 4K picture like in electronic stores, but you'll have another experience. The experience of mastery of creation and of the pride when you see a clear signal appear right on the screen thanks to your very own hands. If you're watching this video and wondering, should I give it a try? Then the answer is absolutely yes. You will not only make an antenna, you will create for yourself a story to tell, a proof that creativity is never a luxury. And who knows, in the process of trying, you may recall that old excitement when just catching one blurry TV channel was enough to make the whole family clap and cheer. If you enjoyed this little DIY experiment, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with friends, and subscribe so you won't miss the next creative project. Who knows, maybe something lying around in your garage could turn into a handy device too. Thanks for watching and see you next time.